Oh my god. I don't know why that took so much out of me. Hello everyone, my name is Taylor and I will talk to anyone and everyone about books who will listen, and today I'm going to be doing the beginning of the year book tag. We are almost done with January, but it's fine. I did get these questions from Larry Reads. She's my favorite booktuber. I'm going to link her video in the description, and I'm also going to put the questions in the description for anyone else who wants to do this, but all credit goes to her for this tag. She is my favorite person ever, so credit to her. The first question is, how many books are you planning to read in 2025? So I'm planning on reading 150 books. Last year I read 175 and my goal was 200. The reason my goal was 200, I got a little bit ambitious, is because in 2023 I read, I think it was like 194, 196, something around there, because I just really was on a roll in 2023. Now, I definitely got way too ambitious and I set my goal too high last year, and while 200 I feel like is definitely manageable, I feel like I could get to that. I just put so much pressure on myself trying to get to it, and even me saying I got to 175 books, I honestly cheated a little bit, because I would read, like for example, I read the Mindfuck series, which is technically 5 individual books in one. I counted that as 5 individual books, and then I would read The Assassin's Blade, and instead of counting it as one book, I counted it as 5 individual novellas. So I was kind of cheating just to like mentally tell myself, oh, I'm gonna reach my goal, I'm gonna get to my goal. And honestly, I feel like that's not really a healthy way, because I love reading, it's my favorite hobby, and I never want it to feel like a chore. So this year I set it a little bit lower. I set it to 150. I feel like 150 is gonna be manageable. But also this year, a goal of mine is, if I don't get to that, if I am not reading for a little bit, I'm not gonna feel guilty about it. I'm just, you know, life happens. So if I need to lower my goal, I will. Who cares? At the end of the day, it's just a number, and that's really all that matters. A book I'm likely to reread this year is definitely Magnolia Parks, because I originally read the series in 2023 and it became one of my favorite series of all time. It's my 3rd god tier series of all time. I love it so much, and I don't know, I've really just been thinking about Magnolia and BJ quite a lot lately, and so I'm probably gonna end up reading that sometime soon again. It's just one of those things where, while I want to reread it again and I want to be in that universe again, I don't know if I have it in me to take the time to actually reread everything and also go through the heartache, because if you know, you know. I love that universe so much, so I don't know. A priority read that's on my 2025 TBR, for one, is I think gonna be the Gods and Monsters series. The first book is the Book of Azrael, I believe, and I don't think that this is a finished series, so I think that's why I've put it off, but I am very excited to go into this. I feel like this is kind of the vibe that I've been into lately, like kind of dark fantasy, and I don't know, I've been wanting to read that lately. And then also the Poppy War. The Poppy War has been on my TBR for the longest time. One of my goals for this year is actually to make my TBR cart go down a little bit, because I literally cannot fit any more books on it. I've had the Poppy War, just the first book, on that cart for the longest time. It's been so intimidating to me, but I think I'm finally ready to read it. I've seen a lot of people say that the main character from the Poppy War could potentially rival Aelin Galathynius. I don't know how true that is, but if you know me, you know that Aelin Galathynius is my favorite my favorite character of all time. Don't know how that is gonna work, but an author you won't be reading more books from this year. So I don't really have any authors that I don't like. Like, if I don't like a book by them, then I usually move on. I usually don't really focus on, like, for example, I've read books before where I haven't liked the book, and then I don't really think about it. I don't really focus on, you know, who the author was or what their other books are. So I don't specifically have one author where I'm like, I am not reading their books anymore. However, I don't think I'm going to be reading any further books by Lauren Roberts, just because, so when I read Powerless for the first time, I really liked Powerless, actually. I gave it 4 stars, but when I was reading it, I could there were a few scenes I remember I knew what was going to happen because of the fact that I had read Red Queen previously. And I know that there's a whole discourse about the Red Queen coming out and then years later Powerless coming out and it being a ripoff, and I'm not in that. I'm really not in that. I have heard that it's also very similar to The Hunger Games in the way that that's written. I don't know. I can't say anything about The Hunger Games, but I know from firsthand experience, I read Red Queen probably 4 or 5 years ago. I read Powerless a year ago. And when I was reading Powerless, I did enjoy it, like I said. However, I did think that it was way too close to Red Queen for me to fully enjoy it. I think now that time has passed, I've kind of gotten a little bit more upset about how many similarities there are in Powerless to Red Queen, and so now I don't think that I'm interested in reading any further books by this author. Maybe just not in the Powerless series. Maybe I'll read further ones, like if she comes out with another series, but I just think for now, I don't think I'm like emotionally invested enough in Powerless just because of the whole like Red Queen situation. Something new that I want to read, this is either a new genre, new trope, anything related to that. I would say I really want to start getting more into dark fantasy. So most of the fantasy that I read, it's usually either high fantasy or it's like fantasy, like YA fantasy with a romance subplot or something along those lines. And I really, really want to get into darker fantasy this year. Like I read the Plated Prisoner series recently, and I don't know if that's technically considered to be dark fantasy, but it definitely felt darker than most of the fantasies that I have read, and it had a little bit of spice in it. And I'm not one of those people that's like spice has to be in every single book, because I love tension. I love it. Like I can go without spice. But I will say it was really refreshing. It was like a new dynamic reading Plated Prisoner where it was a little bit darker and it had some spice in it, and but it also still had such an amazing world and like magical universe. And so I think that that's the type of thing that I really kind of want to focus on this year. A popular book that I want to read, so I really want to read the Grishaverse. So I want to read the Shadow and Bone series. I want to read Six of Crows. I want to know what it's about because I finally got the paperbacks for Christmas, and I think now that I have them and now that my goal is to clear off this shelf, I think I'm finally going to read them, and I want to know what the hype's about. I want to know why everybody loves them. I want to know what's so good about it. I don't know if it's like the entire Grishaverse, but I've heard that Six of Crows is very found family-esque, and I love myself some found family, so very excited for that one. Most anticipated 2025 book release by far is Psychotic Obsession by Lee Rivers. This, oh my god. The Edge of Darkness trilogy by Lee Rivers is my favorite dark romance series. It's the most incredible, underrated trilogy. If there's any book that you are going to take from this video, please let it be that one, because that series is incredible. Check the trigger warnings for it. In the Edge of Darkness trilogy, you have your main character. His name is Cade, and you know that his father, he's been in a mental institution. He's known for kidnapping Cade's mother. He's got a lot going on. Like he's kind of infamous for like everything that he's done in his past. And I am so excited because Psychotic Obsession is gonna be Cade's father's story. It's gonna be about his dad. Oh my god, I need it so bad. It's gonna be so good. A bookish goal for 2025, I would say to DNF more. I feel like I've gotten better at it. I used to never DNF books. In 2024, I DNF'd 2, which I know is not that much, but honestly though, I feel like I'm a pretty good judge of, I want to say judge of character, but like we're talking about books here. I feel like I'm a pretty good judge of like whether or not I'm gonna like a book when I go into it, and if it gives me the vibe based off the cover, based off of what I've heard about it or whatever, that I'm not gonna like it, then I'm just not gonna pick it up. And so typically when I read books, I rarely have books where I'm like, I absolutely hated this. I wish that I had not even read it. I rarely have things like that. Like I have books that I, give 3 stars where I'm like, oh, that was okay, or there were a few things lacking with it. I have those books, of course, but because not every single book is going to be a life-changing 5-star read, but I don't ever really hate books. There were a few, maybe a handful of books that I hated in 2024, but honestly, I didn't really have that many. So I feel like for me to DNF 2 books, I feel like that's good. I don't know. I know I always feel so guilty DNFing books. Like I'll get a certain percentage into the book and I'm like, well, everybody loves it, or it's got to get better at some point because so many people love it, or like what if I DNF it and then it ends up getting better and then I didn't experience the fact that it got better. Like I always have that mentality, but I'm working on it. I am. And then I also want to read more life-changing fantasy books, because I feel like last year I had kind of strayed away from fantasy and I read more like romance and dark romance, which is fine because we love those. Those are our big 3 genres: fantasy, romance, and dark romance. However, I don't know, I've just really been wanting to read something like, after I read Throne of Glass, it's like Throne of Glass changed my life so much and changed my brain chemistry to the point to where I felt like no fantasy series was ever even gonna bring me remotely close to that. Now I know for me personally, I don't ever see anything reaching Throne of Glass level for me. However, like, I want to read things that kind of give a similar feeling of I am so immersed in this world, and this world is so special and it makes me so emotional. I want to read fantasy books like that. And so I have a few on my TBR for this year that I think are gonna do that. They're like the iconic fantasy series that everybody talks about. So I'm very excited to read those this year. A book that's been on my TBR for the longest time and I'll probably never read. So I can't say for sure because I feel like I'm gonna say this and then in a month I'm gonna be reading them. But the Anna Huang books, the Kings of Sin series, I don't really see myself reading those. I have the first 3 in the series and I think there's like 5 or 6 out. I really liked Twisted by her. I really only liked Twisted Lies and Twisted Games and Twisted Lies. Yeah, I really only liked those. I feel like I really have to be in the mood for a billionaire romance. I don't know. I feel like I've had them for a very long time and I'm just never gonna read them, but we'll see. Who knows? Life can change. A series that I want to read this year, this kind of goes into play with the I want to read life-changing fantasy. I really want to read Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. Now I have the trilogy. I bought it for myself for Christmas. Very intimidated, but very excited because I do feel like, honestly, I want to get out of the habit of saying like, oh, I feel like I'm not an intellectual enough to read this, because that's how I feel about Brandon Sanderson books. And like, for example, like that's why I've never read Babel or The Poppy War, because I'm scared that I just am not going to appreciate it enough because they intimidate me for some reason, and I don't know. So I'm going to read Mistborn this year. I'm also going to read The Poppy War. So, but I feel like Mistborn is like another level of fantasy. Brandon Sanderson, I've read one Brandon Sanderson book, and he scares me, but also like in a good way. I don't know. Stay tuned for my Mistborn. I'm probably going to end up doing like a Mistborn reading vlog because I feel like that's just going to be a life-changing experience. So stay tuned for that. My auto by authors going into 2025. So for years, my auto by authors have been Sarah J. Maas, Taya Amafi, Lauren Asher, and Runix. But a new addition to the list is Lee Rivers, because my Edge of Darkness rant earlier, Lee Rivers is, I feel like a lot of people only know Lee Rivers for Little Stranger and Little Liar, which Little Stranger is the one that has Malachi Vise, and it's like the foster sibling romance, and he does some things with a spider on her head, and like, you know, and that's a very good book, I will say. I listened to the audiobook of it and it was really good. I haven't read Little Liar yet, but I do plan to. But I feel like everyone knows her for those books and they don't know her for the Edge of Darkness trilogy, which is just crazy to me because Edge of Darkness is incredible. But yeah, I honestly, at this point, I want to read the rest of her books whenever I'm kind of in a dark romance mood now. So I'm like, maybe I should read the rest of her stuff. But I don't know. She easily became, like, after the Edge of Darkness trilogy, I was like, I will read every single thing that you write. Please give it to me. A book to show adaptation you're excited for this year. Now, I feel like a lot of the books that I read aren't really coming out with shows. Like, I know rumor had it that there was going to be an ACOTAR show coming out. I feel like that's been canceled though. I don't know. I've heard it's still happening. I've heard it's not still happening. Nobody knows when it's coming out. I've also heard that a Fourth Wing show is coming out, I think. So if those are still things, I would be excited for those. But one that I'm excited for is season 2 of Maxton Hall. Now, I have not read the books because I don't think the English translation books have come out yet. I think all of them are in another language. But whenever those do come out, I will be reading them. I put them on my TBR on Goodreads, so whenever those come out, I'm going to read them. But season 1 was incredible. I had my best friend, she flew in for my college graduation, and it was I think it was like right as Maxton Hall season 1 came out. And one day we were just sitting here and we started watching it. We watched the entire show in one day. Like, and it's not that long of a show. It's only a few episodes, but like we literally sat on the couch and just binge watched the entire show. And then we watched it again a second time. We started watching it a second time. And just like that series, I don't know. I feel like it changed our brain chemistry, truly. But honestly, I'm not going to be able to watch it without her. So either I'm going to have to go to California or she's going to have to come here. A sequel that I'm anticipating. So I'm anticipating The Ballad of Falling Dragons, which is the second book to When the Moon Hatched, because When the Moon Hatched was one of my favorite books of 2024, and it left off on the most horrible cliffhanger, and I will never, ever, ever forgive this author for doing this to me, because I need the next book so bad. But another one, which I feel like this one is super unpopular, is the second book to Limerence. Limerence is such an underrated dark romance book. It was so good. It was one of my favorite books of the entire year, and I feel like I say that about so many books, but truly, Limerence was so good. It also left off on a cliffhanger, and the second book is coming out this year, and I'm so excited. It was just announced that it's coming out July 1st, so July 1st, I will be booked and busy, literally. Bookish things I'm leaving behind in 2024. So the main one is going to be feeling guilty for not reading. Now, I'm going to try to do this. I still feel, because my problem is I will get home from work and I have to do homework for school, and like I have to do, I don't know, mentally I just have to like wind down from work, and then I'm like, I could be reading, but I kind of just want to lay here and do nothing, but I also need to do this and do this and do this, and it's like life gets in the way. There's no way that I'm going to be able to read 24/7. So whenever I go like a day or two without reading, I feel so guilty and I beat myself up so bad about it, because like my heart wants to be reading so bad, but sometimes I'm just so like mentally checked out after I get off of work or something, or I'm just too busy with school or, you know, whatever, that I just can't do it. And honestly, that's okay, because life happens, and like reading is a hobby that I enjoy. It's my favorite thing to do. The last thing that I want to do is ever feel like I have to be doing it. I want it to be something that doesn't feel like a chore. So I'm gonna try my best to not feel bad if I don't read, but I'm just a person. What can I say? Also, this isn't something that I do, but I feel like everyone just needs to stop judging others for what they read. Like dark romance in particular. Oh my god, I have to sneeze. Oh my gosh. Dark romance in particular, I feel like there's such a stigma around dark romance where people say like, oh, you shouldn't be reading this because it has this and this in it, and like you wouldn't want that in real life. And it's like, that's the point. Like, we are reading fictional books because they're fictional. Like, no, I'm not. It's like, for example, Limerence. I was just talking about how Limerence was one of my favorite books of the entire year last year, and it was a dark romance. This guy was crazy. He was manipulative. He was a sociopath. He was nuts. Would I want him in real life? Absolutely not. But it's the fact that it's fiction, and it's the fact that we are experiencing things in these books that, no, we're not going to want it in real life, but like, it's interesting to read about sometimes. And also, I feel like a lot of people don't realize how healing dark romance can be for some people. I don't know, I think that there's a huge stigma around it, and I just feel like that needs to stop. We need to stop judging people for what they read. If you don't like a certain genre, or if you don't like a certain book, then that's one thing. Say there's a book that I absolutely despise, and then I go online and I see someone saying that it's their favorite book ever and whatever. I could never imagine taking time out of my day to just like shit on them for loving that book, because it's like, if you have a connection with that book and you love that book, then great. Like, that's your thing. I'm sure you don't have the same connection that I do to some of my books. Like, it just, we all have individual tastes, and we all have things that we love, and we all form connections to these books in some way, shape, or form. Let people like what they like. You read what you want, you like what you want, and then we can all be on, why can't I speak? We can all be happy and we can move on, okay? Yeah. Oh my god. I don't know why that took so much out of me. What to expect from this account this year. So I just recently started posting on this account. I posted a couple of videos last year that I'm not super proud of, and then I just kind of got sidetracked with life, and I was like, I'm just gonna focus more on TikTok. But I usually post on TikTok once a day. I do have a bookstagram. I post on Instagram kind of book reviews maybe once a week or so. I do want to post more reels on my Instagram, but I don't know, it feels weird to post my face and post talking videos on Instagram, because the Instagram community just feels different to me than like TikTok or YouTube. And then ideally I'll be posting here twice a week. That's my goal. At least once, hopefully twice. So I'm kind of just gonna take it day by day. I'm gonna see how it goes, and yeah. How has my reading taste evolved since last year? So I'm still loving the same genres. I'm still loving fantasy, dark romance, and romance. However, I think I'm more inclined to read less popular books now. I think I've spent so much time reading like the super popular books that everybody reads, because I have FOMO, and I want to know, like, if so many people love this specific book so much, I want to know why they love it so much. I want to be in on it. I want to be in on the conversation and understand why people love it so much. But also, I do want to spend time to read books that are lesser known, less popular. I don't know why, but in my mind, a lot of times I will see something that's not that popular and I'm like, well, if not a lot of people are talking about it, like, is that for a reason, or is it just like it's like not a lot of people know about it? And I've noticed that it's usually because not a lot of people know about it. And I've read so many books recently that not a lot of people know about that have become some of my favorite books. And honestly, it kind of provides you a sense of like, oh, not a lot of people know about this, and like I want to share it with people. I want people to know about it because it just like it's another thing to be passionate about. Booktube creators who inspire you, definitely Larry Reed's, of course, the queen of this tag. She made this tag. You really feel like you're her best friend when you're watching her videos, because she just like, she shows you her ups, she shows you her downs, and I love her to death. And then I also really love Heather McAlery. I love her videos so much. She just like, the vibe that she has is just very chill. I get a lot of book recommendations from her that I don't typically know much about, so I love them both so much, and I think that they both offer different types of book recommendations, and so I like to have both of them as the creators that I watch usually. Something I want to say to anyone who's thinking about starting a book account, and I know that this is just the most repetitive thing you've probably ever heard, but just do it. Honestly, I know I don't have a lot of following. Like, I was kind of growing my following on Book Talk, but once again, we don't know what's going on with that. But honestly, like, even if not a lot of people are watching your videos, just post it. Like, it's just, for me, even though not a lot of people watch, it's fun to post, it's fun to edit, it's fun to talk about books. And honestly, it's so much fun being part of a community and talking about what you like. And the biggest part for me was, the reason I waited so long to start any accounts was because I was always so scared of family members seeing it or friends seeing it or whatever. But I've kind of gotten to the point now where I'm like, you know what, I'm an adult, I'm gonna post what I want. Life is too short to not do things that I want to do and be passionate about. And so if this is something that I enjoy, then I'm gonna post it. So honestly, I think that that's what you should do. Just start it. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. If you have a phone, start recording on your phone. Don't even go out and buy a fancy camera. Just do what you want to do. Start out small, and then you can work your way up from there, and just don't put too much pressure on yourself. That would be my advice, and I'm kind of taking my advice as we speak, because who am I to give advice, because I'm a small account. But still, if you end up doing this tag, let me know in the comments, because I want to see other people's tags. And honestly, I feel like 2025 is just going to be such a good year for all of our bookish goals, and I feel like we're going to read a lot of good books this year, because I don't know, I just feel like so many good books are coming out. Onyx Storm comes out in a few days. Scared but excited. So yeah, that's all I got.